This is episode 59 of the Double Cross Anime podcast. Last week's episode was really exciting. It was the top 50 anime of the decade so far from each of us. We had some spirited discussion and debate, and we're just gonna take it a little easy this week. I wouldn't say that either of the movies we watched for this episode were easy viewing, but we did just watch a couple films and finish Conan, so that's what we're gonna talk about.
Right.
And those two films are Belladonna of Sadness and Dead Leaves, both kind of artsy films in their own way. Although I don't know if that terminology is really fitting for Dead Leaves because it's kind of lowbrow in terms of content.
Well, they are both have a lot of sexual content. That's for sure.
Yes, that's true. Which one of these highly sexual films do you want to start with?
Up to you, man.
All right. Well, I didn't take any notes for Dead Leaves. I just watched it probably an hour ago, a little more. So let's do that one first. Before it like totally escapes my memory.
All right. Death Leaf. The first thing that you need to know about Death Leaf is like the first project from Imaishi, the guy who then responsible for many of Gainax and Trigger.
Yeah, he did Gurren Lagann, Kill la Kill. I think he storyboarded some Fooly Cooly episodes. Like in particular, episode 5 feels a lot like Dead Leaves, like super hyperactive, bullets flying everywhere. It's my favorite Fooly Cooly episode.
And he also he was also a director of Panty and Stocking with Gatsby, and this year movies premiere.
Right. I don't know how you say that. Is it Promare?
I just say Promare. Okay. How do you say that actually?
I don't know. I don't know how you say it in Japanese. How they pronounce it is how I would try to pronounce it. It looks kind of like Promare to me, but I have no idea.
Oh, Promare. Well, right. Anyway, that movie, I'm really looking forward to that one.
I don't care about any movies except Children of the Sea coming up.
All right. You don't care any movie from USA?
I mean, I will try to check out Ride Your Wave if it's even being released in America this year. But like Children of the Sea just looks so godlike that I don't even care about anime except for Children of the Sea. I just want to watch that like 5 times in a row in theaters.
All right, even Weathering with You.
Oh no, not really. I mean,
all right.
I'm sure that film will be fine, but that one's not coming to America until next year.
All right. Yeah. So what I was just saying is that I was looking forward for Promare, so it's a good opportunity for me and for Booper as well to watch, like Imaishi work.
Yeah, I guess
so. Death Leaf. So like I think like even like with this very early stage of his career, we can pretty much see like all of his signature styles.
Yeah.
It looked like unmistakable images. Like we have a very frantic, energetic, and the plot just makes no sense at all.
No sense? What do you mean no sense at all? They went more into detail regarding the plot than I expected them to. I thought it was just going to be pure spectacle, but they actually, even though the characters wake up, they have amnesia, they wake up and have no memories. The show does like make an effort to fill in the gaps.
Well, most of them for me it's just like tongue in cheek. So like they just try to they're just trying to make up the plot and it goes. So that's what I feel actually.
No, that's definitely not true. I mean, think of the way that it ends with them being sent back to Earth in cold storage once again. How the plot kind of repeats itself. Mm-hmm. There's a symmetry to the whole thing. There's like a careful construction to the whole thing.
All right.
And the whole thing with the girl. What was her name? Pandy.
Pandy. Yeah.
Yeah. The idea that she was given some sort of genetic mutation by her was it her okay, so this is one part that I don't quite grasp.
Yet. Right.
Was it her father or her husband, or her lover, whatever, who gave her the genetic mutation? Like the girl with the red braids, was that her
Yep.
sister or her daughter? I feel like it was her
Right.
daughter.
From what I understand, it was her father, and the regular, the super villains is her sisters.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense to me because she does call her sis at
Yep.
one point. But the thing is, like earlier in the film, I was led to believe that was her daughter because in some of the flashbacks, she was a lot bigger, a lot older than the girl with the red. Oh, you know what? It was because she was put into cryostasis. She was put in cold sleep. So she probably didn't age during that time, those 8 years.
Yep. Yep.
And that's
That
why
makes
the girl
sense.
grew up. Okay, yes. All right. I thought that perhaps like the redheaded girl calling her sis, like One-chan, was a kind of a way of disrespecting her mother,
Yep.
like not addressing her formally. But now this is starting to make sense to me. I mean,
Wow,
the what?
all right, you actually make sense of all of this because I was just I think I'm being underwhelmed by all these, like sexual reference on this, like my dick is big and
It's a drill. My
It's
dick
a-
is
it's a
my
drill, yeah.
my dick is the dick that will pierce the heavens.
yeah, and all the hole that they want to fill in, just oh my god. So yeah, I was a bit turned off by that, by all these, like sexual references.
I thought they were great. I thought the film
Alright.
pulled them off really well. It had the necessary like energy. You were talking earlier about it being frantic and energetic. I think it had the necessary energy to make itself about
Right.
sex to that extent, to that degree.
All right.
And the film is irreverent in more ways than just that. Like it's irreverent towards the principles of filmmaking. It's it doesn't track the movement and the action of its characters in a way that a typical work of animation or a typical work of film does. They're moving so quickly that it's hard for the human eye to keep up. So Imaishi
right.
is like purposely violating whatever he learned, and like let's say he went to film school, he's purposely violating the rules and the laws that he was taught there.
Wow.
Which I think is cool. It's like very punk.
Well, I actually think that you make the movies much more meaningful than what it actually was.
No, I think that's you with Angel's Egg.
Alright. Well, yep.
Like there is a story here. They
There
they
is a story
get
here,
trapped in
yeah.
it's a prison break story.
Yep.
So there is something, and like in the background there's the whole thing about genetic mutation. There's their backstory, how the two things are linked together. But yeah, it's true that the kind of make it up as you go along feeling that you're referencing is definitely there because the characters themselves say, I have no idea what's going on anymore, or
Yep.
nothing surprises me anymore,
But somehow, like my body just pick up everything. Like we actually know where on these like all these hideout, all these where these guns where they are situated. So yeah.
Sorry, I was taking a drink of my water. Yeah, that's just for convenience. That's for the convenience of the director, so he can keep the story rolling.
Right.
They somewhere locked away in their memory because they did used to, like be employed at the prison.
Yep.
They remember the layout of the place.
All right. So how do you feel about 3.6 and 3.7? The
The like
The-
the jail keepers. What would you call them? They're not the wardens because the woman with the red braids, Pandy's sister. She's the warden.
Yep.
So
I don't even know who they are. They are actually just kind of if I would say they kind of like mutants experiments.
Oh yeah, they're definitely mutants. I'm just wondering like what their position is, what their job title would be. I guess they,
Um,
they probably don't have
just
an official one because they're
yeah,
genetic
maybe just
experiments.
bodyguard.
Well, who are they guarding though? They're like, I don't know. They're just prison
Yeah, or maybe they are the
keepers.
true assassins. They want to assassinate the our two main characters.
Well, I mean, I think the job that they hold is similar to the job that Retro and Pandy used to have.
Yep, yep, yep.
They're employed at the prison, and those two are responsible for like quelling any riots and just general management. They take the prisoners through the. I really loved all those scenes where they were in their body bags.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Their what do you call those things? I guess
Yeah,
body
body
bags is
bags,
fine.
sleeping bags. Yeah.
Yeah. Harnesses. They were in like their full body harnesses, and
Mm-hmm.
they get picked up by those little those hooks, and they move through the
Oh
hallways.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Those scenes were great, especially the ones where like Retro would be going straight down a hall, and then some characters would enter, like they would come in from a hallway, a different uh, system, like a different pulley, a different hook, and they would
Yep.
they would come in and like talk to him for a little bit, and they would zoom off down another hallway, and then another one would come in and tell him a little
Yep.
more about like what's going on in the prison, and then he would zoom off. I thought that was so creative.
And even Retro himself, like we follow him, and then we follow him like going through like another motions. It was like one of my favorite shots out of this movie. So yes,
Yeah,
I
I
agree
mean
with you on that.
it was mostly exposition that was
Mhm.
happening like via dialogue in those scenes, but it was presented so colorfully, just like so differently, so interestingly that I was just happy to hear about whatever Imaishi wanted me to hear about,
Mhm.
even though it was just people talking. That was at the root of the scene.
Yep.
Uh, so what was I? What were we saying before?
Um,
I
the
don't know what's
shot.
going on anymore.
We were talking about the shot. Oh, we were talking about 3 6 and 3 7.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I thought they were cool. I like their designs. There's the
Oh,
slimmer one who's more about like ballistic weapons, and then there's the bigger one who's more about like, oh, me Smash, me Hulk.
yep. Yep.
So that's a very classic dichotomy for villains to have. One is kind of the brains
That's
and one
right.
is the brawn.
That's right. I remember even in show like JoJo Bizarre Adventure, we have like those kind of characters as well. One is super strong, and one is super smart.
Right. Yeah.
So yep.
It works, because then you get kind of the best of both worlds. You're not if both of them are in a fight with different characters, you can cut between one and the other, and then there will be more variety that way. So I thought they were cool. I thought all the characters were cool. I like the doctor, um, who he kind of held the key to everybody's memories because he'd been there at the prison for a long, long
Yep.
time.
And
And
then
he
he
just
have
he just he just pops up, and starts talking to people and filling in their backstory whenever necessary, and then he gets
yep.
like brutally killed
Yep.
midway through one of his speeches, just because like the use for his character is over, and it's
Yep.
now time for like the big showdown and more action.
Yep. All right. You actually think that was cool. I was thinking that like he was just there having a lot of exposition before being killed. Actually, it is like one of the uh how I would say uh the technique uh that that Imaishi always have during like all of his series. I remember in Kill la Kill they have like some kind of that character as well.
Yeah, well, Imaishi is. I mean, despite the fact that he goes so overboard, let's say, with his sense of style in his
Yep.
works, like it's all about how much shit he can cram in. He's
Mhm.
at the same time he's a pretty economical director. Like characters serve their purpose and then they disappear or die or what have you. They don't stick
Mhm.
around for too long because he's interested in moving on to the next thing.
Yep.
And I can respect that. because it, he's not dragging his feet. He knows what he wants to accomplish, and at what even he also comments on it. He doesn't just like kill off a character and then just forget about them and move on immediately. The show or the characters, whatever he's working with, they're sure to, make reference to the fact that they died in that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's not amateurish. He's doing it because that's his preference, like his technique. You get a sense of that as you watch.
All right. One more character that I want to mention is the son, the offspring of Pandy and Rachel.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that character?
Well, first of all, how was he even conceived? Because
Yep.
like it was anal sex.
Yep.
That they had when they were in their their bodysuits.
It's not really sex as well because they only have the the anus holes.
Yeah, there's no penetration involved when you're just rubbing them together.
Right. That's right.
Maybe his boner was so strong that it kind of made a little tent in the bodysuit, and he was able to get something going that way. I don't know.
All right.
But that's the thing. Like, the show adopts whatever logic it wants. Or
Yep.
it's not a show. I guess I should say film or OVA, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
It creates whatever rules for itself that it feels like obeying. And the same is true with the baby, not just the way that it was created, but the way that it aged.
Yep.
And like kind of took one for the team. Like as soon as it was born, it grew up in the span of minutes and then sacrificed itself to blow up the big caterpillar at the end.
I was impressed by him. Not first, but first he actually, when he was born, he already have his gun down his head, on his hand.
Yeah.
Then down the princess, I think. Oh no, the guy one. I think that were 3-6 or 3-7 or whatever. So he actually shoot him down, and when he sacrificed himself for Pandy and Rachel, he was old. He actually aged.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I really love the comment of Pandy that like he was conceived, born, and
Aged and died.
in the span of a single day. So she doesn't feel anything
Yeah.
about his death.
Yeah. That's kind of a running theme actually. She insults their father, like when she's talking to her sister, the warden. She insults her father like he's just a trash heap of a human being. I don't care about him.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm out of here, And then she doesn't care much for her sister either, obviously. And then her own son. She's like, whatever. He came into my life and then left in the span of like 30 minutes. So I don't really feel too broken up about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's there's definitely a theme running through the series, I guess. Like it values in terms of I don't know, romance or sex, however you want to put it. It values the physical over like the familial. I think Dead Leaves views sex as a it's actually kind of similar to Belladonna of Sadness in that it views sex as an agent of liberation.
Right.
Because the system that they're stuck in, the prison system where they're like, they're forced into their cell, they're in these full body harnesses. They have to eat when the warden says eat. They have to poop when the warden says poop.
Yep.
I think it's kind of meant to be a commentary on, like societal drudgery.
All right. Mm-hmm.
And sex is the thing that actually breaks Retro and Pandy out of their full body harnesses. It breaks them out of like the formula, the repetitiveness of what their lives would have been like if they had stayed tied up, stayed captured. So even though the show is so irreverent and its sexual elements are like played for laughs and they're in your face, I think it views sex as a means of attaining freedom. Just a thought there.
All right.
Because they literally become free after having sex. They get out of their
The
harnesses.
change.
Yeah, and they get out of their cell, and then they're able to allow others to escape. That's
Alright.
when the prison break begins.
Yep. All right. Maybe there is something deeper. There is a deeper meaning behind all this. Maybe.
Well, anytime someone is driven to create something, it's coming from some place in their mind. So there's some greater meaning to everything that people create. Especially a production as like big as this one, or some other full scale anime TV project or film or what have you. Yeah, it's always going to mean something, but it's up to the audience to decide what it means to them.
All right.
So to some people, Dead Leaves might just mean nothing. It might just be all like fury and violence. And it is mostly that, but I think Imaishi has something to say about breaking out of, your whatever stale and pitiful life you're leading, and try to do something different, try to do something crazy or mad.
All right. You remember Pandy somewhere have a memories of a fairy tale about a giant caterpillar.
Yeah. Well, just about a caterpillar, and then we
Yeah.
get the giant caterpillar at the end. Yeah.
Yep. What do you take on that? I mean, like, do you think that it fit with the whole thing, the
Yeah.
whole stories?
I think so. Not perfectly. Obviously it doesn't use the butterfly motif as well as something like Ping Pong the Animation does.
Yep.
But yeah, I think the idea of a caterpillar who looks up and wants to become a butterfly, I think that's kind of similar to the idea that you need to break out of whatever prison you're living in, because that's literally what caterpillars do. When they molt and they enter the cocoon stage, and then eventually the butterfly emerges. I think it's a similar thing happening.
Yeah. Maybe it's also a commentary about the circle of life. So like the offspring, the baby born, he going through his circle of life in the span of single day. All these mutant prisoners who is used as like a experiment, and remember that all these all the guard, they have like a like a unison, so they are like have the same designs, same
Right.
function, like they basically the same. So maybe these all are also a commentary to the circle of life of a human.
Well, yeah, that could be. Another thing about the OVA that's circular is the entire structure of the story, because they begin on
Yeah, that's right.
on Earth, and then they end up on Earth again,
Yeah.
in cold sleep again, which is what they woke
And-
up from.
And they might repeat that circle again.
Yeah. You might even go one step further and say that even though Dead Leaves would encourage us to break out of our repetitive and circular existences, there might not be any hope for that, because even if you do manage to escape temporarily, you're still kind of drawn back into that circle by necessity. Like you have to go back to work. You gotta earn more money. That's what happens to the characters. They don't go get a 9-to-5 job, but they do end up back where they started. Even though they're on this rocket ship that's taking them far away from the moon, you think, oh, they've escaped, they've done it. Where do they end up? Back where they started.
Hmm. Hmm. It's a maybe it's a commentary on our current life. Like as a human, we just repeat the whole circle ever again, wanted to break out, but like you said, in the end, we just back to our meaningless life.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
I think there's something to be said for that. Um, but there, I
It
mean, there are ways for us to escape temporarily. Via
yeah.
violence, via sex. I mean, if you think about
Hmm.
it, those are the like kind of the rawest forms of like experience and expression.
Hmm.
Because the main things that the laws that prohibit us from acting in ways that would be dangerous to ourselves or to other people
Hmm.
are typically preventing things like excessive violence or, um, I mean, inappropriate types of sex.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I mean, those are the things that the characters in Dead Leaves are engaging
Yep.
in their attempt to break out of the prison.
All right. Huh. All right. So in the end, do you like deadlifts?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
All right. I'm not as fun as you, but like all these deeper meaning that you just told me, I actually make me change my mind a bit.
Well, I mean,
So yeah.
I would say that is just my interpretation. You know,
Mhm.
I, Hiroyuki Imaishi is not here with me, whispering in my ear. Uh, so I can't claim to know the full extent of the film's meaning, or if that I don't even know if that would necessarily explain it. Because it can
Yep.
take on a meaning of its own,
Yep. Yep.
depending on who's watching. But yeah, I don't think that it is just chaos. I think
Yep.
that it has a few running themes and it has some stuff to say.
Oh, all right. I'm glad that you enjoy that. Uh, on the visual level, they actually pretty good. Like we have like all these unique character design. The
Yeah,
colors, the color is especially very good, and yeah, like you said, he experienced with the angles that we normally don't see in like movies, or like how he put in those like in sequence that break out from the normal rules. I can see that. I can see like how he trying to do that like every single second of this film.
yeah. Sometimes it's hard to follow.
It
Like
is sometimes
it's
it's hard to follow. That's right.
there's
Yep.
just so like especially when characters are driving vehicles or bullets are being fired, the screen becomes so packed with dust or uh, bullet casings or like explosions or even sound effects like text scrolling across the screen or sitting in the
Yep.
background. That happens so many times. You can tell that he's very inspired by manga and probably Western comics as well.
Yep.
Um,
Mhm.
it's sometimes it's just difficult to follow. Like he makes moving manga in a totally different sense than most animators do. Like when you hear the phrase moving manga, you think, oh well, they're just taking the panels and putting them on screen and linking them like very casually. Not really inventing. But he kind of takes the idea of moving manga like if there's a manga and there's a whole bunch of frames, he would take the size of a comic book and multiply it by 50 and
Yep.
and create each of these frames linking the next one. Um, I mean, if you pause any image from Dead Leaves, it probably looks like an image from an experimental comic book author.
Yep.
So
Yep.
he's just elaborating on that idea as much as possible.
Mhm.
And I mean, I would say that the results are pretty mixed. It's fun to watch,
Yep.
and the artistry is impressive. It's the experimental nature of the
Mhm.
visuals are impressive, but it is a bit of a mess at times.
It is a mess, but yeah, a good mess, I think.
Yeah,
Like,
it's certainly different. You know, he's not a cowardly filmmaker.
yeah, well, even if I don't really appreciate the whole stories or like the characters, I feel like the characters aren't developed at all. I still I still actually enjoy like all these, like all these events that happen on screen. So yeah, I would say that I never bore watching it.
That's good.
Yep.
How about Belladonna's Sadness? Did that bore
All
you at
right.
all?
Yeah. Well, you just mentioned about moving manga, so we have like another moving manga that totally in a different sense than that live.
Well, this isn't based on a manga, is it? I actually don't
No, no,
know.
it's not. I mean like the style, the act style. It's like it's more like a moving pictures, basically.
Um, I kind of know what you mean, but go on.
Yeah. Well, it's not like it's a moving picture. It's like a moving illustrations to be exact. So like we have like the whole film style is more like um I don't even know how to describe it. Just
Well,
it
the
just it for me it's not like the anime style. It's
oh
not
yeah,
like
definitely not.
yeah. It's not like it's it have a very limited animation.
In in a lot of scenes, that's true, but there are some scenes where the animation is mind blowing.
Yeah, that's right. So it's a bit kind of mix between those
Yeah, it
and
doesn't have like a coherent visual aesthetic the way Dead Leaves does. Uh,
yeah.
it's very experimental, and it feels kind of fragmented.
Yep. Actually, like even though even with those, like you said, it doesn't have any coherent style. I still feel like those different and like just as from the same style. I do you get what I mean? It's more like it have the same artistic, even though
Uh,
like
I don't really agree. I mean,
all
some
right.
of the scenes are just so different from everything else in the film. Do you
Mm-hmm.
remember the sex scene when she uh, well, I mean there are multiple sex scenes, so you can't
Yep.
just say the
So
sex
which
scene,
one?
but the one near the middle of the film where she goes down, she remember the long scene where she's walking through that cave and
Yep.
she kind of
Yep.
comes out the other end and she's in hell, or she perceives herself to be in hell.
Yep.
And the devil is like tempting her for the final time in order to like bring her completely over to his side.
All right.
And
Yep. Yep. Yep.
there's that sex scene where, um, in the middle of their, you know, the action, that
Yep.
like a whole bunch of random cartoon
Oh yeah. Yeah.
characters and like buildings and um, like animals and a whole bunch of stuff just starts like springing across the screen and like flying all over the place as though they're like time traveling, because it's all, I mean, this film is set during the time when the Black Plague hit Europe.
Yep.
But there's like a whole bunch of images, like modern images, are flashing across the screen
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
during this scene. That looks like
Yep.
nothing else from the entire film at all.
That's right. I remember there were a sequence in that scenes where someone playing sport, some kind of sport,
Yeah, yeah, there were like baseball scenes from baseball games and
and
like famous,
buildings.
yeah, famous landmarks and like palm trees and flags from different countries that probably didn't
Yep.
even exist
Yep.
when the Black Plague hit Europe in the Middle Ages. Um, just everything, like everything you could think of. It's just a like a dog pile of modern imagery that doesn't belong to this film at all.
Yep.
And I think the idea of that scene is to highlight like the interdimensionality of
Yep.
like her trip to hell. You know, because she's not on Earth anymore, or she doesn't feel as though she's on Earth. Because when she wakes up, she's surprised to find herself back in her country.
Mhm.
But I just think all of that imagery is meant to highlight the fact that she is in some other place that is not limited by, the laws of time and space that she knows.
Yep. Yep.
But nevertheless, I was like, I honestly I laughed as all that
Right.
stuff was going on. It was so bizarre,
It's
such a strange choice in order to get that point across.
right. Well, I actually say that like almost all of the sex scenes in Balladonna are pretty what is the word? I tend to say the word mind blowing. It's um it's pretty good. It's
How do you
it's
feel?
pretty.
How do you feel about the first one? Like the very
All
first
right,
one
yeah.
when they
I was
when
thinking of
she
that
wants to
first
get
one when I said-
married. She wants to get married to Jean, and the Lord is like, you know, give me an offering of 10, the worth of 10 milk cows.
Milk cows. Yeah.
But they they only have one. So his decision is to throw Jean out of the castle,
Yep.
and rape his fiancée.
Yep.
And you see, like, apparently she's a virgin, because
Yep.
a
The blood.
lot of the blood, like, there's a focus on her kind of being like literally split and torn in two
Right.
during that scene, and like there's that little red kind of tendril looking thing that engorges and like becomes much bigger. That's obvious what that's supposed to represent. Like, did you feel as though your mind was being blown during this scene?
Do you know that what that scene remind me of? What other anime?
Oh, what?
Paprika.
Okay, what scene in Paprika?
The scene where the guy, one of the scientists, use his hand to go through paprika in order to open up the real paprika.
I do remember that, but I don't remember there being like
So
anything on screen representing like a penis and
Nah.
like becoming
yeah,
like engorging itself inside of a woman and like ripping her in half. I don't remember that at all.
well, they have the same ripping her in half. And,
Oh, really?
And yeah. So like in paprika, it was the act that ripping the shell of paprika in half. And here it's like figuratively, but I actually like all the sex scene, but many of the sex scene in this film is more of like suggestive, and
Suggestive. I would say they're like visceral.
yeah, visceral as well. Yeah, visceral is a good work. So it's more like for me all right, it's hard to explain that, but for me it's like an it's beautiful because they don't show it explicitly. That's what I feel.
Well,
And
yeah,
it's make it more powerful because of that.
I see. I would say that this film is plenty explicit. There's tons of
Right.
nudity. There are orgy
Yep.
scenes. There's bestiality.
Yep.
Do you remember the orgy scene after, like, this is after the Black Plague, when everyone is, everybody's dying, and
Yep.
John, like, at this point she's been won over by the devil entirely.
Right.
And there's like this flower, the nectar from the flower, like kind of cures people and allows them to, gives them like a boost to their libido.
Right.
And so they just start like running wild in the street and having sex with everybody and everything. And there is like those scenes that are meant to represent bestiality, where it's like the person and the animal kind of mixed up together in an
Mhm.
image on screen.
Yep.
I mean, it's true that we don't get. I mean, this isn't like hentai, you know. It's not literally depicting sex for titillation or for the viewer's gratification. But I would say that there are a fair amount of explicit scenes. Um, like the first one, the one that I described, where she's. I mean, you don't see the guy's member, but I mean, you obviously see what's meant to represent it, and
Right.
she's literally ripped in half
Yep.
as a result. I'd say that's explicit.
And I say that like only imaginaries that the show that the movie use are actually pretty powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, I did enjoy the film on a visual
Enjoy.
level.
All right.
I like the
Enjoy.
film on a visual level for the most
Right.
part.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, even the scenes that were just kind of like murals that the show scrolled past while the narrator was talking and informing us of like events in the story. For
Yeah.
example, after the rape scene at the start, we learned that John is made a tax collector because his wife is selling fabric.
Yep.
And as a result, he has money to pay his taxes, and the Lord is pleased with that. So he's given like elevated social status. As all this is being explained, it's just the camera panning over a very very long illustration, with a lot
of
of.
her of her looking at herself in the mirror, right?
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about there is that scene which was pretty crazy, like
Crazy.
how
Yep.
how detailed this very very small movements of her arms and legs as she was like, getting up to wash herself and sitting down. They were so lifelike. It was unreal.
Right.
But I'm not talking about that scene. No, I'm talking about
Yep.
like the mural scenes. Where there's no animation at all, and it's just a very very long image that the camera moves past, where all the
All right.
characters are kind of like connected to one another.
Yep. 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 All right. Yep.
I'm not an art expert by any means. So the thing that reminded me of was the cover of the Beatles album Revolver.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Can you picture that album with where it's just a whole bunch of like outlines of characters like sketched, and they're
Yeah.
all kind of connected together. It looked like that to me.
This is more artful and more beautiful than that cover though.
I don't know. I think that's a pretty beautiful cover.
Of the four guys, yeah.
It's not just the four guys. There's tons of other stuff on that cover, like near the bottom. Their faces are the biggest things, but if you look at it in detail, there's lots more on there.
Right. All right. I haven't looked closely enough. That's it. It seemed.
Ah, okay. Well, I'm sure that's the case for most people.
Enough.
But I mean, like even during those scenes where there's no animation to speak of, it's just a single image. Like if you were to stitch it all together, take all the moments when the camera is panning across it and make it one large image, it would be super super long, like panoramic. I like those scenes even.
Yep. Me too.
And all the experimental animation was also really really detailed, really interesting. One thing I really liked was like the blotted kind of marbled look of the backgrounds. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. Like it wasn't like the film didn't use a lot of solid colors. But it was like, for example, when it would depict the sky, the way it would be layered, to signal that there are clouds in the sky would be like it looked kind of blotted. It looked kind of I don't know what the best word for it is. Kind of layered, kind of washed out a little bit, as though the paint had run in some sections. I thought that was really really interesting because you can use it not only for like when you're animating or illustrating a hillside, you can use it to indicate that there's like a lot of foliage, there are trees and bushes and things, without actually taking the time to draw or paint those particular images. And you can also just use it for visual impact. So I thought that was great. I don't know what kind of technique that is because over time as art develops, people come up with names like terms for these different
Right.
types of art, and I don't know those names and terms, but I do remember how it looked, and it was pretty striking.
Yep. So yeah, I agree that on the visuals side, this movie is really striking. Like all the idea is have like all this style is it depict, and all these like even like animation, all the detail is put on are really amazing. But how you feel about this movie on the narrative level?
I thought it was fine.
All
The
right.
the show's not really about um, creating a really involving story.
Mm-hmm.
It gives us the story largely through narration
Mm-hmm.
during those scenes when the murals are kind of scrolling on screen. Um, we do get some dialogue, like some of the story elements that are not given to us via narration are the pact that she makes with the devil,
Yep. Yep.
because that's like a dialogue between she and him
Mm-hmm.
um, in hell, and then they kind of what's the word that I want to use? They kind of officiate, or they consummate, or whatever. Like they make their agreement official via the sex scene.
All
And then
right. Mm-hmm.
much later in the film, there's the subplot about like the Lord of the Land. He's got his advisor, with the purple hair, who has fallen in love with the lady.
Yeah.
Um,
They
that's
use
all dialogue, I think.
yeah they use they use a term for that guy
Uh,
of his position. I'm trying to remember.
he
Uh,
kind of functioned like a court jester to me.
yep.
Like he
Mm-hmm.
was basically just there, almost for laughs, like just for the Lord's pleasure.
Yep.
Like go
Mm-hmm.
step on her arm, rip her green
He
cloak.
he was the one who actually stabbed Chini in the back, like during one of the scenes.
Yeah, I think I do remember that.
Yep.
Although when he talks to her later and tries to get her help in seducing the lady,
Yep.
he all he says is that, like, I ripped your cloak, your
Yeah.
green your green jacket, whatever.
Well,
He
I
doesn't really acknowledge that he stabbed her in the back.
Ye- yeah. Did he actually stab her in the back, or he just like just tear the clothes
Well,
like he
I
said?
I also thought that he stabbed her, but I mean, I don't know if we were actually meant to get that impression.
Right. Right. I just know like on that scene like many people try to rip her off.
Right. Yeah. She at one point she was very popular with all the common people.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the king or the lord instigates an uprising against her.
Um, is this film some kind of a commentary about the husband as well? Because like we seen Chin for like through during like all these event happen, he actually kind of useless. He kind of not supporting his wife where he supposed to be,
Right.
and he portrayed as like a really weak. So like Ginny had to basically stand up for herself and like learn to stay apart from him.
Yeah.
Not
Although
not
they do stay married.
Yeah, they do stay marriage.
But yeah, he's not a very useful member of their partnership. She's
Right.
the one who's making the clothing, or the
Sacrificed.
the
Yeah,
fabric
that's
that
right.
that
Yep.
makes money, which earns him his social status. And then after he loses it, he gets his hand chopped off.
Yep. Yep.
She's the one who has to. She like then goes and attains power through sex.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
and he's I don't know.
He,
It's kind of it's kind of a difficult subject to touch on, but he's kind of portrayed as weak in that he is not as sexual as the other characters. Even like the rape scene at the start, the Lord is kind of depicted as being a powerful character because he's able to attain sexual gratification so easily, and John is like locked out of that. So he gets to have his wife second, and I think that's meant to be a sign of weakness. I mean, I wouldn't say that I agree with that idea, but you know
I
we're dealing with an older
I
sort of story here.
yeah, I do think that what you just said is like one of the theme of this movie. So like sex and power are coming hand in hand together. So
Yeah.
like in the like much later on when Ginny she get her power by like by having sex with others, and like later on when she become a witch, she actually um save people from their sickness by putting that desire, sexual desire, into them.
Right. Yeah, and that seems to cure them of their affliction that they're
Yep.
suffering under from the Black Plague.
So so that's when we get into uh, the subplot we just mentioned about the jesters and who fall in love um with his master wife.
Right.
So like because he doesn't have the powers like but he have the desires. So she trying to uh uh low she trying to just how
What?
to say just not widen the gaps, the opposite. So she tried to close the gap between the power and the desire. Hmm.
Wait, I,
I
I
know.
don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I just mean like so power and sexual is like it's come hand in hand in the stories.
Yeah.
So that's the plot where the jesters who have like the sexual desire with his master wife. So
I got all that. I just don't understand what you're talking about widening the gap or
it's not widening the gap. It's like closing the gap between the power and the sexual desire.
yeah. What I don't understand what you mean by that. Who is
Yep.
closing this gap?
uh Genie, the main characters. Well, I'm trying to work out like what does the plot mean in to all this,
I thought it was the least relevant part of the entire film.
right?
I
Right.
actually didn't even totally understand what was going on, like physically, sexually, between let's say the jester. I don't know if that was his title, but the jester
Yep.
and the lady. Um,
Mhm.
I didn't quite work out what was happening between the two of them. Like there are a couple shots of the two of them like together, um,
Um,
but a lot of it is like just her receiving pleasure, and we don't see how she's getting it really. Like there are shots of, I think
all right.
her legs under the covers, and where we don't even see any, like we don't see him at all, and no penetration. I don't really.
All right. So from what I get from the scene, it was that he putting some kind of like medicine to her. She
Oh, it was
drink it.
probably the
She,
same flower, like the nectar from
yeah,
the
the
same
flower.
flower that John was using.
Yeah, that's right. She's drink it. She feel like sexually um
Aroused.
active, aroused. Yeah, and then he came in. He doing an act with her before they both got killed by the husbands.
Right. Yeah. He kind of he stabs the
Both
cross
of them.
looking thing through them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And that's when we get into the whole she's a witch, you know, and she's burned
Yep.
she's burned alive.
Right.
Um, Yeah. Okay. So that makes, I guess I had forgotten the fact that he gave her the libido boosting liquid, you know.
Yep.
So that's what would that would explain the scenes where she's getting some sort of pleasure before he like enters the room and
That's
lies down
right.
with her. Okay.
Yeah, but come afterward, it's not that the barons see her as the witch, but he trying to negotiate with her in order to get like all the knowledge of the plant, the flower that she's using, and she refused to do that, and then he accused her as the witch, and
Right.
he burned her to the stake.
Right, that's right. Yeah, like all the characters in this film are in pursuit of
Power sexuals.
yeah, power and sexuality, but it all revolves around Jean specifically. So they're all in pursuit of Jean.
Yep.
Because like the husband wants to marry her and be with her. The Lord wants to use her for his own gratification. The lady wants to destroy her because she I don't know, she represents like a clear an open and free sort of sexuality, and you can tell just by the way the lady dresses, like she's completely covered up, and that sort of thing
Yep.
is probably considered sinful.
I yeah.
The common people want her to provide like relief from their suffering, and
Oh.
for her to kind of share the freedom that she experiences after she makes this pact with the devil.
So basically, see an object.
Um, no,
I would
I
say
think
like
I
yeah.
think people see her that way, but I think that in the end she becomes more than that by
Right.
embracing the sexual, like her own sexual nature.
Yep.
Even though she dies, we see that she like inspires
The
she
French
inspires the
Revolution.
people. Yeah, yeah, that part was weird, dude. Like, all right, so putting that aside for a second, I definitely want to talk about that. But putting that aside for a second, you see the scene where all the people in the crowd, as she's being burned alive, like her face kind of comes over
Oh yeah.
um, all of the people in the crowd, as though she like her sacrifice is kind of inspiring them and changing their minds, changing like who they are.
It's a bit too much. If that's the case, because I don't really get what that's supposed to mean either.
Well,
But if that's the case,
I think that's pretty clear, given that it's followed up with the French Revolution thing.
yeah, I think they try to reach a bit too much by the
Yeah.
end.
Well, I mean, what else could it possibly mean? Like everyone's face being replaced with hers in the crowd, like kind of that change sweeping over everyone. They were, their lives were changed certainly by
Yeah.
what she offered them, and so even the way that she dies is pretty sensual. Like the
Yeah, that's
flames,
right.
the smoke and the flames kind of curl up her body and through her legs. So she represented like a perfect sort of sexuality that's immune even to death. Like because she's not like, from what I remember, she doesn't scream or cry out or anything.
Yeah. Don't forget her husband actually just come. Maybe he come in to try to save her, and
Yeah,
then
but
he
he's
got killed
yeah.
instantly.
He throws a torch at the Lord, and it literally just goes past him.
Yep.
He's not in any danger at all. It just flies right past him. Yeah, so Jean, I mean they're both named Jean, which is kind of confusing, but the
Yep.
husband is, he like his lack of sexual like ability, I
Yep.
guess, or I don't know. Like it kind of it makes him weak in the story. So even at the end when he like tries to save his wife and rebel against the person who's crucifying her,
Yep.
he it's completely ineffectual, and he just gets a spear through the heart for his trouble.
Right. All
Um,
right.
so rest in peace to that guy.
Yeah. Right in speed, John as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Um.
yeah. So the
All
French
right.
Revolution thing,
Oh my God.
that was crazy.
Yeah.
it tried to draw a link between like her sort of empowerment and the fact that women were highly involved in the French Revolution. But the thing is, uh, the Black Plague happened in the mid 14th century. The French Revolution was like at least 400 years after that.
Yeah, so that just means that her spirit don't dies
Right.
for 400 years.
Yeah, I mean her memory is like it lives on in the people who she influenced when, you know, she replaced
That's right.
everyone's face with hers in the crowd.
Yep, that's right. uh,
Yeah,
uh,
that didn't quite work for me,
well,
but
I agree on that.
at least I understood it. Like I think there were a few points in this film that I just went totally over my head.
Yep, I agree
Um,
on that as well, because it feel more like on this the film is connected by like separate like sequences. It's like a musical sequence as well, like in musical film. So like they connected by all these sequences, and some of them run really a bit too long for their own good.
yeah,
Like the scene that you just mentioned about like all these um when she's making a pact with the devil, and we see like all the modern technologies and stuff. It's really like just reaching a lot.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I kind of admire the idea, like to communicate the point that um, she's somewhere like far from Earth. You know,
Yep.
so the limitations of like how she perceives time
Mm-hmm.
are kind of slipping away.
Mm-hmm.
I, I I like the idea, and I mean I think it was communicated somewhat successfully. Like the fact that I was able to draw that conclusion
Yep.
means that like at least the idea is kind of embedded there in the text.
Mm-hmm.
But it was definitely strange. Like I feel like there you could have just gone with more like psychedelic backgrounds or
Right.
something. You didn't necessarily have to use that
All right.
kind of hilarious technique.
Yep. If you have to compare this movie and Dead Live, which one you prefer more?
I prefer Dead Leaves, but I
Right.
also liked Belladonna of Sadness. Like it was difficult to get through. The comparison you made to like musical film is pretty good, I would say, in that like it does seem to be very segmented,
Yep.
you know.
Yep. 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 Yep.
And it even kind of functions as a musical film because there's constantly music playing, and it's all like kind of gothic, like a
Mm-hmm.
little bit psychedelic. There's the organ infused sort of rock music.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, some of those passages did last too long, and I didn't get that feeling from Dead Leaves. Like it was more concise, and the energy was maintained much better in that film.
I I think story wise, this Balladonna of Sadness is like 50 minutes an hour long, and then like another 20 minutes of that is a bit too long for me.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the film's a little bit indulgent,
Yep. Well.
but it does result in some really cool stuff. I mean, do you remember
Mm-hmm.
the black when the Black Plague is first introduced? You get that black and white image of what almost looks like Greek architecture or
Right.
something,
Yep.
and then it
Mm-hmm.
just like melts away,
Yep. 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 I
and
remember that scenes.
that was unbelievable looking.
Mm-hmm. And
The amount of drawings that they would have had to create in order to put that sequence together is
yep.
just like that's the like the highest impact visual moment in the film for me.
And
Um,
then right after that we see like on this victim have like on the black spot in on their face in their bodies, and that looked really good as well.
yeah, I mean you can imagine how that person
Yep.
is suffering just looking at
For
them.
for me, my favorite scene is the one that she's looking at the mirrors. It
Or the one
just
where she's looking at it, or the one where she's inside the mirror. Because isn't she?
inside the mirror. I think I would say.
Are you talking about the one where everything is kind of like It's like a really really dark scene, and everything's kind of put together with little bits of like little grains of sand almost, or
Right.
you know what I mean?
I have that screenshot right now, so I'm gonna just put that to you. Um, I don't know if she was inside the mirror in the scene though.
Don't we?
Not really sure.
Isn't there a like a mirror frame kind of on the outside of
Yep.
that shot, like
Yep.
bordering the whole thing? I kind of got the sense that she was.
Inside.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what we're seeing is a reflection of
Yep.
what she's doing behind the camera, and the camera is showing us by shooting a mirror.
Is it? Is it the
Yeah,
same scene that we were talking? Yep. All right.
yeah. Oh yeah, I guess she is looking at a mirror in that particular shot, and then she kind of turns around and
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Doing something.
right.
All
Yeah,
right.
that was very that scene was very long. I remember thinking
Yep.
as I was watching that one, like, man, how much longer is this gonna go on?
Yeah.
But
So
it was really cool looking as well. It's
that's right.
very inventive film.
So yeah, in the end, we have like two really experimental films from the span of is that like 30 years?
Yeah, I think it's like 30 or 31 years. Yeah,
Wow, yeah, from a bit sexual as well,
yeah,
and but apart from that, they are totally have different style and have great visual style as well. So yeah, I'm glad that we pick up those two movies.
yeah. There ended up being a kind of a strong link between the two of them. Like they both
Right.
use sex
Hmm.
as freedom. They both have that
That's right.
metaphor kind of embedded in them.
One is freedom, one is power. But yeah, that
Right. Yeah.
that's
I guess might be more accurate. Although I mean, I sex is kind of what frees the people from the effects of the Black
sorrow.
Plague.
Yep,
Yeah. Um,
that's true.
yeah. They both have sex on the brain,
Yep,
at the very least.
my fuck.
Yeah. I guess so.
Yep. I much prefer this Madalena than what do I say? I much prefer the second one, Belladonna,
Belladonna. Yeah.
than Deathleaf. But yeah, I can watch Deathleaf, like again and again any times, by just by on the visual strength alone.
Yeah. They're both very interesting visual films. Definitely
Yep.
not like a typical looking,
Yep.
let's say Shinkai or Mamoru Hosoda or whatever,
Yep.
type of film where
QID.
yeah, or well, I mean, Liz and the Blue Bird was a little experimental. Like it used
Huh.
the dual art styles,
Right.
like the
Right.
storybook art style and the. But it's not the sort of anime film that where the visual, like the pleasure of its visual experience doesn't just come from everything looking very clean, everything looking very fluid. Uh,
Mhm.
it's about like kind of a shock to your system.
Yep. Hmm. Yep. Great.
So that's cool.
All right.
So I guess it is time to talk about Future Boy Conan. Would you say?
All right. Yep. The final 5 episodes of Future Boy Conan.
Right. The first series, at least, because there is a second series, which I don't think we're planning on watching.
Yeah, because there wasn't any personnel from the first season involved.
Right. Yeah. So better
And
to leave
yep.
it untouched, probably. Just watch this version,
Right.
which I thought was pretty good overall.
Yep. It's a plot driven climax, which I think does a good job of making like the climax as big and as thrilling as possible.
Yeah, because Lepka, he gets control of Giganto, the big
Yep.
plane.
Mhm.
Or is it Giganto? I can't remember how they say it. I think it's Giganto because there might not
Giganto.
be a j sound in Japanese.
Yep. Yep, yep.
Anyway, yeah, he gets the massive warplane and he wants to like take over the world and everything, you know. So big stakes, and of course Conan finds a way to defeat him,
Yep.
and then you know, they
And
all head to High Harbor and the day is saved.
right. Um, before that though, he saved Lana some of the time, and
Yeah.
until the last time that Lana actually saved him. So I kind of like that as well.
Well, we've seen her save him once before as well. I mean, at least once. The time that I'm thinking of is when she kind of buried him when the
Yeah.
soldiers were invading High Harbor. She
And then she got kidnapped again
Right.
because of that.
right, yeah.
Yep.
But she, you know, she's I think she did her part in the story.
Right.
She's
I
able.
agree.
She is a telepath, so she's able to communicate with Lao. She kind of teaches Conan about the outside world when they first meet, and provides like the impetus for the story to move forward. And she has the same sorts of personality traits as Conan does, where she is like she resists cruelty and like mean-spiritedness. She's just a very good character in the same way that Conan is.
Yep. Conan actually saved Lapka once he's falling down off the of one of the plane that he drive.
Right.
Yeah.
Which episode was that in? Like where are we in when that happened?
In the one before the finale.
Well, because Lepka does die, doesn't he? He goes down with Giganto as it's like falling into the
Yep.
sea in flames. But yeah, he tries to save Lepka even then.
Yeah, that's right.
Like he extends his
We-
hand, but
We don't actually know if he died though. This guy, like, if you don't see them die on screen, they might not be died though.
well, I mean, I think that's valid for the first time when we see his flying machine, as
Yep.
he
Explore.
yeah, he escapes in the flying machine from
Yep.
whatever. And there was a moment where it kind of dipped down below one of the sand dunes and then rose back up. So that was the perfect
Mhm,
opportunity for him to like bail out of there. So in that
Yep.
in that case, you can be like, oh, no body, no death. But
Yep.
in that being the final moment where he goes down with the ship that's got fires breaking out all over the place, and there's that massive explosion when it hits the water.
Yep.
I think you can assume that he's dead.
Well, I would say that ship, right named, it remind me a lot of the steak. It's like it just in flame. It's look delicious.
It reminded you of a steak?
Yeah.
I-
Really, I was thinking of steak when I see that, the flaming.
I think you're probably just hungry. I don't.
I think I was eating then.
You know what reminds me of steak?
What?
Jim C's pet pig and all its little
what his
pig
name?
babies at the end.
Looking delicious.
Yeah, its name is literally umaso, which means tasty or delicious.
All right.
Yeah.
There is one element of surprise for me in this 5 episode though, and it's the romance between Monsley and
Dice.
the captain Dice.
Yeah, I wouldn't say romance. I mean, let's
It is romance.
let's be real. He just makes a couple passes at her,
They-
in her pajamas, and then they're married in the end.
Yeah, they get married in the end.
Yeah.
All right. I was warming up with Dice a lot in these last 5 episodes because he's not a performer anymore. He's still a performer, but he now determined to like go out of his way to save Lana or Conan when they are in trouble. So it have a lot of good point for me.
Yeah, he's a hero. In the last 5 episodes, he becomes a hero because it's not just him trying to like capture Lana all the time. He and
Yep.
Lana have allied themselves, against like a common enemy. So
That's right.
and he's always hated Lepka, and Industria's like really controlling attitude, because he wants to be free, like he's a man of the sea, as he's always going on about. And you even see that reflected in the pre-marriage scene where he's like alone in the captain's quarters before before he sees Mansley up on the deck of the ship where the ceremony takes place. He's thinking to himself like, should I really be doing this? And the subtext is obvious, like he's going to chain himself to one woman for the rest of his life. And he's not sure if that's the right decision. And he even says to Conan, you're going to experience this when you're older, which is really funny to think about, because Conan and Lana are like the destined pair. So is Conan ever going to think to himself, man, should I really marry this girl? There are probably other women out there.
Yeah, but that masked the final moment when he see Mosley, and he just like made himself up. Rewarding for me.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think the whole romance between he and Mansley is pretty quickly kind of like it's slapped together. There is a big time skip, because you see that all the former members of the the crew of the Barracuda, they've all settled down with women from High Harbor, and they've got a bunch of kids. Yeah, so clearly there's a significant time skip here. Let's say a couple years. And I mean, for the water level to have receded enough to see the rest of what was it called? Remnant Island. Because it's not just the very tip of it anymore, where the rocket hut is taking up like most of the land surface. Instead, the water levels come way down. So that would take millennia probably in real time, but there's been a cataclysmic event, so that might explain why the water level's gone down so much. But that's another sign. The point that I'm belaboring here is that that's another sign that there's been a time skip.
Right. In these 5 episodes now, Dr. Lau is in poor health. He just
after getting tortured brutally, he loses his sight and his hearing. Yeah,
that's right. It's sad. It's sad though, but he's still able to communicate with Lana, and help to bring the solar energy system back.
Yes.
I still can't figure out the whole functional of that solar system, like how they know that they're gonna be a star coming in and put down the energies.
Well, it communicated with a satellite in space.
All right.
Remember, there's the shot of the satellite that seems to activate itself, or is activated once they start the solar energy system. So the solar panels of that satellite, they harness the energy of the sun. They send the beam down, and they're able to get it that way.
And maybe from what I remember, it will self-destruct after it did that.
Right. Yeah.
That's right.
I think Lau sets it that way, or the old men of the council they set it that way. That wouldn't be its ordinary function, but they have to get out of Industria because of the earthquakes and stuff. So the reason he wants it to self-destruct is because he feels like that power is too much for humanity to have. So they just want enough to get themselves on the way to High Harbor, power up whatever ships they need, whatever factories they need to produce food, clothing, so that they can get to their new home.
Right.
And that's a big theme of these episodes, is that it's the series is more accepting of technology than I thought it would be. Because Miyazaki's all about, he's like nature. But I think the idea, especially that scene where Lau shows them the hologram in the solar tower.
Oh yeah.
Where he can control the seasons and everything's just like an illusion. He's like, all this technology is really amazing, but we've taken it too far because none of this is real. I think that's the point of that scene is that technology, it
Can't replace.
yeah, exactly. It can't replace what's real. It can't replace the natural world. Just no matter how far you push it, there has to be a limit. Which is why Lepka is the villain, is that he pushes it too far. He wants to use like the most advanced technology possible in order to he wants to use that as a tool for his own his own lust for power.
That's right.
He won't accept the world the way it is. He wants to control it. So yeah, but it was like it was pretty accepting of technology overall. I'm thinking specifically of all those scenes back on at High Harbor, with there's the blacksmith
Yep.
place and the the textile factory where all the girls work to make clothing, and there's the granary and all of that.
Right.
And there's the ship that Monsley flies, and like flight is that's one of his favorite motifs. So ships that can fly, those are kind of smiled upon as being acceptable forms of technology.
You do you think that Mosley is really good at driving those, especially when later on she only have like one hands to drive the whole ship, and she did that.
Yeah. Well, that's how we're introduced to her character, is that she's the one who is always flying around in the Falco, that little ship. So yeah, I guess she's
That's
like
right.
an expert pilot. She was Lepka's second in command.
That's right.
Until she betrayed him.
Betray him.
However you want to put it.
All right. So yeah, we have like the ending that we pretty much expected, and in a entertaining way.
Yeah.
I really enjoy all these, like all the things happening, and it's kind of a children's show. So yeah, there's some the deeper meaning about the environment versus the advance of technologies, but like the main focus here is the adventures of Conan and how many times does he have to save Lana.
Yeah, that does happen many times. Yes.
Yep. Well, at the end, she's the one who saved him. So yeah.
Yeah, she she astrally projects herself into a seagull. I thought that made sense because we already know that she can communicate with the birds, and we know that she's a telepath. So if you kind of put those two things together, it makes sense that she would be able to
fly
like an eagle.
Bird. Yep.
Over the sea. Fly like an eagle, let my spirit carry me. It's perfect. It's just like the Steve Miller Band song, except there's no eagle.
Yep. So yeah, in general, how do you enjoy Conan the series?
Oh, are we done already?
You have anything else on your note?
I have some other stuff. I mean, obviously we
All
touched
right.
on all the major happenings, which
All right.
are that they boot Lepka out of Industria, but he comes back. The solar energy revives the plane. He tries to take over the world, and they stop him, and they all live happily ever after. I mean, we covered all that, but there's like lots of other small details
Right.
that I think we can mention. I mean, they're pretty darn small. Like, for example, do you remember all the characters giving each other thumbs up in like episode
No,
in
which
episode 25, when they're all like on the wings of the plane, and they're kind of
Yep.
they're running across the wings, and they have to like use handholds and stuff to get from one
Yep.
part to the next because they have to resist the wind that's whipping at them. Like they're all constantly giving the thumbs up sign to each other.
Yep.
Like, oh, I made it this far, you can make it too. Did Miyazaki just learn about like what the thumbs up sign is during the production of this series, and he was like, oh man, that's really cool, I'm gonna have every character give the thumbs up like 5 times in this one episode?
I actually like these scenes where like they communicate each other just by using gesture and thumbs up. So I think that was really cool. I really like it.
It made me laugh. It's just that, like, the overwhelming positivity. You know, like your life is at stake. It makes sense because Conan is like a very like he's a thoroughly good and optimistic sort of character. So even when he is, you know, performing these death-defying stunts on the wing of a war machine, he's still going to be the sort of person who gives a thumbs up, you know. But it's
Yep.
nevertheless, it made me laugh.
Right.
I thought that was just really a really strange decision, but you know,
I
it was
actually
fun.
like the colors they do as well. Remember when in episode 22, like the first one that we seen,
Hmm.
when Latka decided to flood the underground
Yeah,
and close the shutter. So when Conan opened the shutter, we see like the flood of, you know, like proud gray colors coming out of the underground.
you mean the people,
Uh,
all the people
the people,
coming out?
yeah, the
Yeah.
people.
Well,
So
they're all
I
wearing those like those rags, those kind of
yeah,
burlap looking clothes.
I really like about the series as well because on these lab cast soldiers, they wearing the green blue shirts, uniforms, and later on when Lapka he using the uniform from the Giganto.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep.
I don't remember the color. Is that yellow?
I don't either.
It's like one kind of one specific color as well.
Yeah. Well,
And
I mean that would just like signal that he's significant. Him having a different
yeah.
color uniform. Yeah, because he's
No,
the
no, no.
leader.
I remember that on other team member they using that same color as well.
Oh,
Actually,
I see. Okay.
yep. So like I like the use of all these colors because like the gray colors in the people underground signify how they was like hidden underground. They was not supposed to be, you know, stand out at all. So
Right.
like
And also their
the color,
poverty.
yeah, that's right. The color gray really fit them. So like the image of, you know, like the flood of gray coming out of these undergrounds in the shadows, it really make the effect to me.
Yeah. The show does a good job with those like wide crowd shots.
Yep.
Even during the scenes where there are like hundreds and thousands of people emerging from the underground.
Yep.
It is just like kind of a grayish brown blob with a bunch of circles in it to indicate bodies, but
Yep.
it looks reasonable,
Yep.
because that's like an impossible task to animate that sort of thing, you know. So they
Well,
figured out the best sort of shorthand that they could use for it, and I think it worked.
speaking of that, I just watched Cross Game, and in one of the scene like earlier in the series, they have like the shot of like the people watching the games, and it's look ugly as hell.
Yeah. Oh,
I
I'm
gotta
sure
I,
that's the case.
I gotta pull that scene, that screenshot up for you.
Yeah, Cross Game was not a great looking show, I don't think.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen it, but
Yeah, but apart from them, like Cross Game was pretty good.
yeah.
I had some complaint about the final match where
What the
they don't
dude?
have a lot of animation.
The final baseball game is the best, like one of the best parts of the entire series.
Yeah, but they don't have some of the scene. They just don't have the animations. They
Yeah.
just have like the zoom off of the characters
Yeah.
instead of, you know, like extra motions.
Yeah, they may have been running up against the clock since it was like the very end of the series.
Right.
They might have been like
Yeah.
struggling to make deadlines. But the
Yeah.
the concept of that final match where he breaks the pitching speed record and what that means for his relationship with Alba.
Yep. We actually don't know if he break
No, but
the
we do know. We do know. The fact that they don't show it just makes the scene more beautiful. Like
Alright.
we're given the responsibility to trust based on our knowledge of the character and of the whole story that he does break the record. So the fact that we have to connect that point like ourselves makes it more powerful.
All right.
All right, let me
But
look at this picture. Wait, why are we talking about Cross Game?
Yeah, enough about cross game. Let's get back to
Wait a minute.
Conan.
You think this looks ugly?
This look ugly as hell. Like all the characters are op models.
Of course they are. They're crowd members. I'm sure they were hastily drawn.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, like each one of them has a little bit of personality to their expression. I think this is great. Just because they don't look like anime characters with their perfect anime eyes, that doesn't mean that they look bad.
They look really bad to me. They look really amateurish to me.
Yeah, that's because they're background characters.
So just don't show them.
Don't show them. Why are we watching this baseball game if it's not even important enough for like a crowd to gather?
All right. Maybe you can put like the background together, the background characters as like name faceless figures like in Penguin Drums.
No, this is better. This is better. I honestly love this shot.
All right.
It's great. Not everything needs to be on model all the time. Aren't you like a Yuasa fan? Things don't have to look pristine and perfect in order to be good. We just watched Dead Leaves for crying out loud.
All right. You win.
Anyway, Future Boy Conan.
Yep.
We completely lost what we were talking about. Oh yeah, we were talking about episode 22. One thing I wanted to just like briefly kind of complain about, or maybe ask a question about, is like their technique of trapping the air underneath the mine cart so that they can wade through the tunnels, which are flooded.
All right.
Do you remember this? Is that really
Yep.
how physics works? Would that really trap the air? Wouldn't the water just like come up and flood the area where their heads are?
I think that makes sense. I think what they did makes sense. I don't know if it could apply, like it could apply in real life though. And you have to suspend some of the disbelief, I believe.
Well,
like
yeah, I mean that's definitely true because it's animation. I'm just wondering if that would work in real life. If that's how like water being like more dense than air, if that would keep it trapped underneath and keep the air up top. I don't really get that. Like if you put a water bottle into the water upside down, doesn't the water just fill up the bottle?
No. So it's gonna be like that as well. If you put like some of the solid stuff upside down to the water, you're gonna feel like the pressure, the force to pull it back up, because there's still an air and oxygen in there.
Huh.
So if you put it like slide down, you will see like on the bubbles, it's where the air get out. So yeah, they still hold some air in there if you put it upside down.
Okay.
So in theory it work. I don't know if that would work, like work.
The way that it did in episode 22.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I would say that it could be enough for one person, not like three of them.
Yeah, well, I mean, they at least go to the effort of like showing us that the oxygen is running out.
Right.
Yeah.
But talking about like suspension of disbelief, like the whole section where they are on air, when they are like
They're on
the
the wing of the Giganto.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's really out of, like you have to suspend some of the disbelief there, because up there it's really cold. It's like freezing cold. It's like minus something degrees.
Oh.
So they basically can't be outside, let alone like run around.
Okay. Well, I mean,
And,
Conan can do
giving
anything.
thumb ups, giving thumb ups to each other like 5 times.
Yeah. Conan is like one with the earth. That's part of who he is. So as long as he's like outside in nature, he can do anything. Even when he's not, even when he's strapped to a wall with like
Right.
iron shackles, he can still like strain his muscles so hard that the wall itself breaks away from the rest. Like a section of the wall breaks away from the rest of it.
He even catch the fish by just his feet.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that
Yep.
was one little moment that I really liked. I really liked the way that episode 26 opened, with
Alright.
Jimshi and Dice fishing.
Oh,
Because
right.
they kind of escape from the ship in that little like the gun turret, which
Yep, yep,
gets
yep.
detached and like slides off. So there,
Mm.
you learn about their fate, like that they're safe at the start of the episode, but you don't know what's going on with Conan. So that like keeps you kind of hooked to the
Mm.
episode to learn about like where Conan is, if he's okay.
Yep,
They don't
yep,
immediately reveal that, so that you can feel the way Lana feels. I don't know
yep.
if it's necessarily a success because you get the sense that Conan's probably fine, but
Mm.
at the very least, you can put yourself in her shoes, like not knowing if he's all right,
That's
especially
right.
since she can't hear his voice um, until she, like is able to like kind of let go of her attachment to Lao,
Yep,
like the fact that she's so anxious about his sickness, and she's like obsessed with his fate. As she allows herself to let that go, she's able to focus on other things. So she's able to
that's
find
right.
Conan that way,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was kind of a nice nice message. And
Yep.
he does pass on in peace.
Yeah. Well, I like his message. His message is like so we as the older generation, it just like we did all we did. So now it's time to pass on for the new generation.
Yeah, I think that's like a very Japanese
Yep.
sentiment.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think it works pretty well. And like the reason that he's willing to entrust the new world to Conan specifically is because I think he values Conan's like his kind heart, and the fact that he's always in pursuit of like the right thing to do.
Yep.
And the show as well. Like the show clearly values Conan's physical ability because
Mm.
he's always using it to get himself out of like, to rescue Lana and to get himself out of um, sticky situations. But
Yep.
I think it also like it equally values, if not more so,
Yep.
the fact that he is kind, that he's a good person.
One thing I really liked about the show is when like uh Conan, especially when he tried to rescue Lana, and when they run from like a torrent of gunshot from the enemies, and none of that would hit them.
Yeah,
So whenever you see like someone firing a gunshot, that it's not gonna hit anybody's.
right. Of
That's the new
course.
that's the beauty of Future Boy Conan.
Yeah, I think there's even a moment in not this batch of episodes, but the previous one, somewhere in those 5 episodes, somebody makes a comment like, no, maybe it was. Hold on. Let me check my notes here.
All right.
Um, shit, I don't know, but there's a moment where I think it's Monsley who says, "Oh, even Industrian soldiers can hit people with their guns sometimes." Uh, that's like when she gets hit in the arm, I guess. Um,
Yep.
later on, when she's talking to someone about her injury, she says, "Oh, even Industrian soldiers can hit their target sometimes." So I don't remember which episode that was in, whether it was in one of these or one of the past batch, but I definitely
Mm-hmm.
remember the show kind of commenting on that. And it's of course it's not the first to engage in that trope. That's like a super Hollywood thing to do, like the hail
Yep.
of bullets and the protagonist remains unscathed.
Yep. Huh. I remember that comment as well, but I remember that's not from from Future Boy Conan, but from one of the show that we watched.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't remember what which show though, but I remember that
Huh.
comment.
Okay, maybe I'm mixing up a couple of shows. But have we been watching anything with like gun violence in it?
Uh, Maybe some of the first impression.
I really think that it was her, but
All
I
right.
can't
Yeah.
find it in my notes here, so whatever.
Because
Um,
one show that I remember having that trope, like recent one, is Robomachi, the one about a two buddy cop.
oh, I didn't watch past the first episode of that.
Yeah, I just only watched the first episode of that, and I remember like the main guy have a very lousy shooting skill.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's kind of interesting that they would reverse it and make the main character the one who can't hit anything.
Yep.
Hmm.
All right. All right. Should we wrap this up?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Oh yeah. How you feel about Future Boy Conan as a series?
It was good. It was fun.
Fun.
Liked the sense of adventure. Liked all the different places they went. I really
Yep.
liked the sense of time that was
Yep.
given to a lot of the action scenes and the rescue scenes, and even just moments when Conan is like swimming underwater or tiptoeing across a wall on a ledge. You really get the sense of danger that he's in because of
Yep.
the amount of time that's given to each of those actions. Even though
Yep.
he's a superhero and he's not going to get hurt, it still feels kind of tense.
Yep.
So I really like the way it was
Um,
directed. I like the story. I like the characters. I thought it was fun.
All right. If you compare the show to like some of the classic show that we watched during the classic run, like Nadia or uh,
Rose of Versailles.
yeah, Rose of Versailles. How you gonna put this one among those?
I actually liked this one better than Nadia.
All right.
It just
Surprise.
seemed so like this one seems so foundational in terms of like being the typical adventure series that is just perfectly laid out.
Right.
Nadia, it had a really rough patch of episodes, which this show doesn't suffer from that problem.
Yep.
But I mean I have to say Rose of Versailles was great. That I prefer that to those other two.
All right.
And
For
we
me,
watched other stuff too, but I don't remember everything.
Yeah. Well, for me, I would put Nadia at first, and Rose of Versailles and this one on the same levels.
Okay,
All right.
it's pretty different.
So-
Pretty different ordering there.
Yep. All right. So you want to announce next week for the classic shows that we pick?
I mean, next week isn't the classic thing. Next
Oh,
week
yeah,
is
yeah.
summer
2
first
weeks.
impressions.
Yep. So next week we're gonna do the summer first impression where we're gonna pick 10 shows and review them. Which of the 10 show we're gonna announce next week?
Yeah.
So for the surprise.
Well, I mean, I think everybody knows what the main shows are. There are probably a couple surprises in there,
Yep.
but we did pick
Um,
most of the big name series to be
Yep.
on the list.
That's right. So you want to announce the classic show that we pick?
You can do it.
All right. The one that we decide to do for the next 2 weeks is a show from World Theater.
World Masterpiece
Uh,
Theater. Yeah.
Yeah, what must be theaters? Heidi.
Heidi, Girl of the Alps. Yes.
Yep. Another show from the Ghibli core team back when they was young and active. So this one directed from by Isao.
Yep. Yeah, with Miyazaki
And-
doing layout, I think. Layout work
All
for
right.
the series.
Yep. And it's gonna be like 50 episodes, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a long one.
All right.
So hopefully
yeah.
hopefully, the serene presentation is not going to
Yep.
put me to sleep. We'll see.
All right. So tune in next week for the first impression for the next seasons, where we're gonna pick 4 shows for to talk for the next 3 months as well.
Yeah. A lot riding on that.
Yep. All right. See you next week.
Bye-bye.